About 400 RAAF officers, personnel and their families were on hand at the Williamtown base this morning to witness the arrival of their Royal Highnesses, the Prince and Princess of Wales, shortly after 11 o'clock. The weather was kind, fine and mild, if not a little overcast. It was a private welcome, and the crowd were only expecting fleeting glimpses of the royal couple before they moved off to their official engagement at the International Sports Centre. But they got more than they could have hoped for. After being welcomed to the base by Base Commander Air Commodore Monaghan, the Prince and Princess moved slowly along, looking extremely relaxed and chatting with the Williamtown personnel and families for a quarter of an hour longer than was expected. For the Williamtown RAAF base, it was certainly a day to remember. Prince Charles and Princess Diana finally got into the waiting Rolls-Royce, bound for Newcastle's International Sports Centre.
Here at the International Sports Centre, long before the royal couple had arrived, thousands of school children had gathered, some a long way from home, to greet the Prince and Princess of Wales. And as the royal couple arrived, the children's excitement bubbled over. As the royal couple made their way around the sports centre, they were greeted by 43,000 cheering school children. The excited crowd stretched across the barriers to catch a glimpse of the Prince and Princess of Wales. And a few children even jumped the fence to make their own presentation to the royal couple. The applause continued as the royal couple stepped from their vehicle to be greeted by the New South Wales Treasurer Mr Ken Booth and other dignitaries. On behalf of school children in the Hunter region, Alison Watkins from Merriweather High School welcomed the royal couple.
The presence of Your Highnesses here today is of great importance to the young people of the Hunter Valley.
The royal couple were then entertained by a variety of displays put on by the children, including this performance by infants' children waving red, white and blue ribbons.
All the children are joining in that.
Primary and secondary pupils combined in a physical education display around the outside of the main room. In his speech, the Prince responded warmly to the enormous reception the couple had received at the sports centre.
May I first of all thank you all very, very much indeed, from both of us, my wife and myself, for such an incredibly warm and friendly welcome this morning. Our eardrums are ringing with the noise you made, and we've both been greatly impressed by the display you've put on this morning. No doubt most of you will now need to have a long rest and at least several tubes of beer to recover. May I also congratulate Alison Watkins on a very fine speech. It can't have been easy on her first occasion to address 35,000 of you. We both of us appreciate that this is a special gathering of so many children from all over the Hunter region. And we both hope that there hasn't been too much of an interruption to your educational process. All I can say is if you don't do well in forthcoming exams, you can always blame us.
It will be a day long remembered in the hearts of thousands of school children, some of whom had to travel in the early hours of the morning to meet the Prince and Princess of Wales here today. At the completion of the ceremony, and with a busy schedule ahead of them, the royal couple left the sports centre for the City Hall, where more eager crowds were waiting.
The royal motorcade arrived at the Newcastle City Hall to another bubbling reception from several thousand people. The Prince and Princess of Wales were met on the steps of the hall by the Lord Mayor of Newcastle, Alderman Joey Cummings, and Town Clerk Mr Barry Lewis. After the brief and courteous exchanges, the royal couple made their way into the hall and up onto the balcony, where Alderman Cummings extended them the official welcome.
Newcastle is delighted to welcome you both on this lovely autumn day. We have long awaited this visit, and now you are with us. Your Highnesses, I do not have to assure you of our allegiance and affection Over 43,000 cheering young people have done just that. Australia will be celebrating her bicentenary throughout 1988. No doubt you will be making other visits before then, but as a Director of the Bicentennial Authority, may I invite you to attend our 200th birthday party?
We were most touched by such a welcome and look forward to many future opportunities to return to this part of the world, hopefully with our son as well. This is very much my first visit to Newcastle and the Hunter Valley region, and certainly my wife's first visit here. We've been much looking forward to seeing this part of the world. We know that it isn't that much of an easy time for Newcastle at this particular moment. And if it's any consolation, it isn't any easier in the United Kingdom either. I must admit that I think it's very unfair that you should be subjected to a drought as well. And I know that this has severely reduced farm incomes, and it has been bad news for the normally productive alluvial areas of the Hunter Valley and the tributary rivers. I only hope that it hasn't had too adverse effects on the wine growing industry. We had some very good Hunter Valley wines last night for dinner in Sydney, and you can see the results of that now. And the region's people have given us the most stupendous welcome here today, for which we are most grateful. And as I say, we look forward to returning on many future occasions. Thank you.
Warm and sustained applause. And as Princess Diana waved, the crowd waved back.
Then it was time for the Civic luncheon. Hundreds of local business and community representatives were the lucky ones to share the occasion with the royals. Once again it was evident that the Prince and Princess were quite at ease with those around them, and before sitting down to eat, chatted briefly. At 2:30 the moment came round again when Prince Charles and Princess Diana stepped out. For the hundreds who had waited, most weren't disappointed. The couple were then on the road again, heading for Maitland.
God bless you! We love you!
At Maitland, the royal couple were met by one of the most enthusiastic crowds so far. Hundreds of people waited patiently for hours behind the barricades in High Street to catch a glimpse of the royal couple. This time the fans were treated to a closer look at the princess as she walked down the main street, stopping to talk to children who presented her with flowers. Even though the royal couple were running behind time, they stopped frequently to talk with bystanders. The royal couple signed the visitors' book and met official guests before proceeding into the town hall for a state reception given by Premier RAAF.
It's on behalf of our whole community, this strong, vigorous and growing community, that I now have the pleasure and the honour to welcome their Royal Highnesses, the Prince and Princess of Wales, to Maitland and the Hunter Valley.
And so ends the couple's tour to our region. After the reception at Maitland, the royal couple headed back to the Williamtown airbase, where they boarded their VIP aircraft for Woomagama to be reunited with their baby Prince William. The Prince described today's visit to our region as a heartwarming experience, and no doubt Newcastle can be proud of one of the biggest receptions yet on their Australian tour.
I think it was a memorable visit and everything turned out right, including the weather.
Any problems at all?
No, only small problems, and they always raise themselves. A little bit of a change in the plans because they were running a bit late, but otherwise everything was perfect.
And do you think they enjoyed themselves while they were here?
They did. Yes, I'm sure they did. I think they were overcome by the warmth of the welcome, and the Prince of Wales did say that he was overcome and touched by the welcome.
Did you get a chance yourself to talk to them very much?
Off and on, yes. We managed to get a few things across, and the people that he met, or that I presented to him, he knew quite a lot about their particular professions and work, quite intelligent discussions, and I suppose he's used to it, but he was a very nice man.
And what sort of things did you have to talk about with the Prince and Princess?
Oh, we talked about Newcastle, and I noticed when I introduced him to a particular person who is involved in the Hunter, he had some very searching questions to ask him on where we are and how we're going, so he's keenly interested.
Now, you did invite the royal couple to return to Newcastle in 1988. Do you think they'll come?
I'm sure they'll come. Whether they'll come to Newcastle, I can only hope, but at least I've got the first invitation in.
HMAS Hobart, now in its 17th year of service, slipped into Newcastle today, still an impressive-looking missile destroyer, back from sea exercises off Jervis Bay. Due to its regular trips along the eastern coast south of Sydney, it's not often the ship graces our port. And for that reason, it was a special voyage for 10 members of the crew who call Newcastle home. As the ship docked at number 4 Lee Wharf, there were plenty of eager faces waiting. And it was obvious some were waiting for Dad. Native leave gives those on board who are in their home port time to spend with loved ones, but according to the captain, this system is sometimes hard to control. While the crew may get time between trips in and out of Sydney to visit the family, this is no doubt the most impressive way to come home. HMAS Hobart, which carries the Gloucester Star for efficiency and performance, will be open for public inspection on Sunday afternoon. It sails on Monday morning for more sea exercises along the eastern coast.
Good afternoon. Well, as you can see, we're here on the water's edge, and this is the place to be. There's plenty of fish about. The mullet have had a spectacular run down the or up the coast actually, and I've had information that some of the school has moved back in the harbour up this way and back into Swansea Channel. Now, in the channels, the big kingies are attacking the schools of mullet, and there's some really big fish amongst those kingies. So if you feel like a bit of sport, have a crack at those. Bream fishing would be the go this weekend. This afternoon you've got a high tide coming up about 5:30. I'd be going to places like Fingal Bay, fairly sheltered as you can probably see behind me. The sea is a little rough. I would be very careful fishing on the rocks on the making tide this afternoon. I'd guess probably Fingal Bay through those quieter areas around Port Stephens would be the go. Don't forget, Bream is the big go at the moment. If you can see a school of mullet, jag a couple of mullet out, cut the sides off and use those for bait and fish directly under the school itself. We've scored, during this last week, we've scored some really good catches of bream, and there's been a few big dewies taken around the Fingal Bay area, and that's why I suggest probably that would be the place to have a bit of a crack. Also blackfish. Now this afternoon, as I said, this afternoon, tomorrow afternoon, good tide for blackfish. Be very careful on the rocks. The waves are fairly swelly and coming in pretty heavy over the edges of the rocks. Outside fishing should be quite okay. You might get a bit crook, but it shouldn't be too bad at all. The current's quieting down a bit, and it might be worth a fish tomorrow morning. That's about it. Good afternoon.